What the? I'm coming to the cottage.
This is the reason why Heated Rivalry, HBO Max's top-rated live-action acquisition ever, and Crave's most-watched original series cannot compete for a single Primetime Emmy Award. The show isn't disqualified because of quality or controversy, but because of a technicality buried in the Television Academy's rulebook that comes down to one simple fact: when the money showed up. Today we're breaking down exactly why this beloved adaptation of Rachel Reed's hockey romance novel got locked out of television's biggest awards show, why other Canadian productions like Schitt's Creek qualified when this one didn't, and what this tells us about the increasingly awkward relationship between Emmy rules written for a different era and the global streaming landscape we actually live in.
Ilya, I'm gay.
You're not so gay you can't fuck Rose Landry.
Oh my god.
I'm just a bellboy kid.
I hate you.
No, you don't.
Understanding why Heated Rivalry doesn't qualify requires us to first understand what the Emmy eligibility rules actually demand from foreign productions. The Television Academy's rules contain the language that decides everything, and the specific wording matters here, so let me break it down for you. According to the rulebook, foreign television production is ineligible unless it results from a co-production, both financially and creatively, between US and foreign partners, which precedes the start of production, and with a purpose to be shown on US television. That reads like dense legalese. So here's the simplified version with the 3 simultaneous requirements any foreign production must meet. American money has to be part of the budget before cameras roll. That's the first requirement. An American partner needs to have some say in the creative direction from the beginning. That's the second. And the show has to be made with American audiences in mind from day one. That's the third. All 3 conditions must be met before production begins. And that's where everything falls apart for Heated Rivalry.
I love you.
I love it.
Holy shit. I love you too.
A distribution deal signed after the show is finished doesn't count under these rules, because buying the rights to air something isn't the same as helping to make it. This rule doesn't target Canadian productions specifically, and it applies equally to shows from the UK, Australia, South Korea, and anywhere outside the United States. The Primetime Emmys exist to recognize American television, while the International Emmy Awards serve as the pathway for everything else. With those rules in mind, let's examine exactly how Heated Rivalry came together. Accent Ague Entertainment produced this 6-episode limited series. That's the production company owned by Jacob Tierney and Brendan Brady, and they worked in association with Bell Media's Crave streaming service. Canadian sources funded the project alongside a UK distributor, with Bell Media's license fee joining Canada Media Fund contributions, Bell Fund participation, and Sphere Abacus, a UK-based distributor that stepped in about a month before production began. Cameras rolled from April to June across southern Ontario locations including Toronto, Hamilton, Guelph, and Muskoka, with additional filming in Montreal. And here's where it gets interesting, because this financing structure wasn't an accident or an oversight. Creator Jacob Tierney and producer Brendan Brady deliberately approached it this way after meeting with potential financing partners who delivered studio notes that wanted to fundamentally change the story, or fundamentally change the tone. Crave's head of development, Rachel Goldstein-Kudo, understood that the book works for its audience, and that audience turned out to be surprisingly large. Messing with the source material risked alienating a built-in fan base and making a show for absolutely nobody. Creative freedom won out over awards eligibility, and the production moved forward without American partners specifically to avoid answering to anyone else about the show's explicit queer content. Brady explained that they would not have made the show at the level they achieved if other people had been involved demanding changes, because the creative team wanted complete control over how the romance and intimacy played out on screen, and bringing in certain international partners would have meant surrendering some of that control. This context matters because the Emmy situation isn't some unfortunate oversight. It was a calculated trade-off. Both producers knew what they were giving up, and they decided it was worth it. Heated Rivalry reached American audiences through HBO Max despite being made without American financing, and the timeline of how that happened is where everything went wrong for Emmy eligibility. Crave originally scheduled the show for early next year, possibly February, but the network kept pushing the premiere date up to capture holiday audiences. Early November brought a call from HBO executive Jason Butler, who had already acquired the show for HBO Max in Australia, to Casey Bloys, the HBO content chairman, asking if he wanted it for the US market. Episodes went out immediately and negotiations began just a few days later, with Bloys describing the decision as an easy and very quick yes. Being a gay man himself, he sensed that the show might make some waves, and he expressed surprise that the series remained available so close to its debut. November 28th marked the simultaneous premiere on both Crave and HBO Max, which meant HBO Max came aboard after the first season was already completely finished. HBO didn't help make the show. They purchased it after production wrapped. This arrangement qualifies as a distribution-only deal, where HBO Max paid for the rights to show the series to American audiences without any involvement in actual production. No money flowed during filming, no creative input shaped the content, no partnership existed before cameras rolled. Those 3 Emmy requirements I mentioned earlier, pre-production financial investment, pre-production creative involvement, and original intent for US broadcast, a distribution deal signed after completion fails every single one of them. Casey Bloys addressed HBO's hands-off approach openly when he told Variety that they weren't going to be involved, adding that the last thing the show needs is people meddling in what works. His exact words captured everything. "I will be excited to receive my episodes and highlight them on HBO Max. Receive my episodes, not help make our episodes. Receive them, like a delivery." That hands-off approach probably represents the right creative call since the show was already working beautifully. But from an Emmy eligibility standpoint, that's exactly the problem. HBO Max functioned as a customer rather than a partner, purchasing a finished product, and buying something isn't the same as making it. Schitt's Creek won a bunch of Emmys while being Canadian, and the difference between that show and Heated Rivalry illustrates exactly where the eligibility line falls. 19 Emmy nominations went to Schitt's Creek over its run, with 9 Emmy wins arriving in 2020, including Outstanding Comedy Series, which made it the first Canadian program ever to win that category. All 4 major acting categories fell to the show that year in a historic sweep. Timing explains why Schitt's Creek qualified when Heated Rivalry didn't. Pop TV, an American cable network, joined as a broadcast partner and co-commissioner back in 2014, which was before production of the first season even began. CBC and Pop TV both received official production credits for the series. Pop TV wasn't just a distributor who purchased the show after filming wrapped. They sat at the table from the beginning, providing both funding and a US broadcast commitment from the outset. Before a single scene reached cameras, an American partner was already involved. Orphan Black followed the same pattern, with BBC America co-broadcasting alongside Bell Media's Space Channel in Canada from the start. That structure enabled Tatiana Maslany's historic Emmy win in 2016 for Outstanding Lead Actress in a Drama Series, making her the first Canadian to win an Emmy in a major dramatic category for acting in a Canadian series. Canadian shows can absolutely win Emmys, but only when American partners join before production starts. Gold Derby, the awards coverage outlet, put it simply when they explained that if HBO Max had partially funded the first season and provided some creative input, Heated Rivalry would have been eligible to compete at the Primetime Emmy Awards. But HBO didn't provide either of those things, so the show isn't eligible. Season 1 doesn't qualify, and you might expect Season 2 to take a different approach now that HBO knows how successful the show became. Mid-December brought the green light for Season 2, which will adapt The Long Game, the 6th book in Rachel Reed's Game Changers series, with Warner Bros. Discovery expanding distribution to Europe, Asia, and Latin America. But here's the thing, HBO still isn't becoming a production partner. Casey Bloys addressed this directly when he repeated that telling phrase about how he'll be excited to receive his episodes, adding that clearly the creators have a good sense of the show and what works. Season 2 will likely be produced the exact same way as Season 1, with Canadian financing keeping creative control in Canada while HBO Max comes in afterward as a distributor. The same Emmy eligibility restrictions that blocked Season 1 will block Season 2. This isn't an oversight getting corrected, it's a deliberate ongoing choice where the producers value creative independence more than Emmy eligibility, and HBO stays happy to buy what they make without getting involved in making it. Jacob Tierney explained their philosophy when discussing HBO becoming the US streaming home, describing how they were always trying to make premium smut, and now they're premium smut on HBO, which would be the dream. But he's been doing this long enough to know that nothing guarantees an audience anymore, and there's so much good TV out there that breaking through the noise feels like such a gift. Being locked out of the Primetime Emmys doesn't mean Heated Rivalry can't win any awards, because several ceremonies remain open for competition. International Emmy Awards represent the first option, with a submission deadline at the end of January that allows both the show and the actors to compete. A procedural review may be required because of the simultaneous US and Canada premiere, but industry analysts describe that as a formality rather than a genuine obstacle. Given Heated Rivalry's global reach, critical acclaim, and cultural impact, the show would be a strong contender on the international stage where the awards recognize excellence in television produced outside the United States. Canadian Screen Awards, considered Canada's equivalent to the Emmys, represent the second option. The show missed the deadline for the upcoming ceremony, but eligibility opens for future ceremonies. GLAAD Media Awards represent a natural fit given the show's portrayal of queer love, and the series earned praise for its emotional specificity, sex positivity, and refusal to sanitize intimacy for mainstream comfort. Golden Globes and Critics' Choice Awards both closed their nomination processes before members could screen episodes, timing that came down to how late in the year the show premiered. Stepping back reveals what this situation actually represents. TV critic Miles McNutt raised the core question when he wrote that if the Emmys are a celebration of the American television industry, then the focus on co-productions is a logical technicality. But if they are, as the TV Academy claims, a celebration of excellence in national primetime programming, then we need to acknowledge how many foreign TV shows are now accessible to viewers through streaming platforms. McNutt continued by pointing out that while the borders still very much exist for the vast majority of global programming, their ability to break down like this showcases a disconnect between the rules and the reality of our experience of TV. Emmy rules came from an era when American television meant American production, and if you wanted to watch a Canadian show, you had to specifically seek it out because international content existed in its own separate lane. Streaming changed everything about that dynamic. HBO Max subscribers watched Heated Rivalry the same way they watched The White Lotus or any other HBO show, with the content showing up on their home screen, where they clicked play. And to them, it's just television. Since HBO Max launched in 2020, Heated Rivalry became the platform's top-rated non-animated acquired series, landing in the top 5 among all scripted debuts this year. Canadian viewership grew by nearly 400% in its initial 7-day streaming window, making it Crave's most-watched original series ever. Gold Derby noted that the Television Academy has periodically changed its rules to reflect industry shifts, but they also cautioned that modifications typically come as larger category tweaks rather than a reactionary response to one specific show. One show probably won't change the system, but Heated Rivalry adds another data point to an ongoing conversation about what the Emmys are actually for in an era when your streaming service might be showing content from a dozen different countries and you'd never know the difference. Heated Rivalry can't compete for Emmys because of when HBO's money arrived, not whether it arrived at all. Creative control won out over awards eligibility when the producers made their choice and HBO chose to buy rather than build. Those decisions made the show what it is, and those same decisions made it ineligible. Whether that represents a flaw in the system or the system working as intended depends on what you think the Emmys should celebrate. For now, the rules remain the rules. Heated Rivalry broke through the noise in an era of infinite content, became a genuine cultural phenomenon, and proved that unapologetically queer romance can be mainstream entertainment, all without compromising the creative vision that made it special in the first place. Maybe that's worth more than an Emmy anyway. Thanks for watching, and if you found this breakdown helpful, let me know in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.